How should we translate Miyamoto Musashi's book, Gorin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings? Let's go through and see. My name's Anthony Cummins, and today I'm going to go through that very topic of Musashi. But before that, I'd like to let you know about a book I've written, which is the Book of Bushido, the real story of samurai chivalry. So if you'd like to support me, please do get a book, and let's talk about Miyamoto Musashi. Okay, Miyamoto Musashi, as everyone knows, wrote the book Gorin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings. And before, I've talked about Miyamoto Musashi's school name, Niten Ichiryu and Nito Ichiryu. And before we move on to his book, it's my opinion that Niten Ichiryu means the premier school of Miyamoto Musashi, because that was one of his alternative names, Niten. And I also think that Nito Ichiryu means the premier school of the warrior. If you'd like to know why or how I came to that conclusion, please see my other video, which I'll link below. However, what about Gorin no Sho? Now, Gorin no Sho was written by Musashi before he died, towards the very end of his life. So it's absolutely what he considered his final teachings. Now, it's written on 5 scrolls, and which Gorin is basically 5 different things. And what we don't know is if he called it Gorin no Sho originally, the writing of Gorin, basically. So we've lost Musashi's original scroll. It doesn't exist anymore. The actual scroll he wrote has been destroyed, some say in a castle fire. We just don't know what happened to it. And it's said that possibly he did not write the title Gorin no Sho, but we just don't know because we don't have his original document. But even if he did or he didn't, we know that the manual is made up of 5 separate scrolls. So basically you've got wind, fire, water, earth, and air. Now, air meaning ether out there. I'll go through that in a minute. And we know each title, Chinomaki, the scroll of earth. We have Kunomaki, the scroll of ether, air. Yep, so we know those 5 things, what's in the book, and it is collectively known as Gorin no Sho. Now, Gorin is actually a term or a Buddhist idea in Japanese. And we have Gorin-to, which is this type of pagoda here, which is on the screen now. And that has a specific meaning. Now, we don't exactly know whether Musashi was directly referencing a Gorin-to. We just don't know. But we can say that the Gorin-to represents a Buddhist philosophy that was there. But the Buddhist 5 elements are different to the Taoist 5 elements. So if we look at Japanese society at the time Musashi is writing, we have to look at what he's resting the bedrock of his understanding on. So what we have here, I'm going to go through them now, are the 2 different types of 5 elements. One is Chinese, one is Indian. Okay, so let's go through them. So the Indian version, which comes, of course, from Buddhism over in India, in the Middle East. We have earth at the bottom, water is above it. We then get fire, wind, and then air or emptiness or ether, depending how that is translated. The next 5 elements, which are not connected to the Gorin no Sho, they are not connected, is actually earth, water, fire, wood, and metal. I've given them in that order because you can then compare them. So let's compare those. We've got the Indian ones on the left, which are earth, water, fire, wind, air, going from the bottom and going upwards. And on the right, we have the Taoist ones in the incorrect order, but which is hopefully matching these. We have earth, water, fire, and then we see there's a difference between wood and metal. So what do we have here? Inside of Japanese society, you know that in the Indian 5 elements, people are understanding how the world is constructed. Earth is the solid bit at the bottom. Water goes to its lowest point. Fire rises up. The wind comes above the fire, and the air or ether is above everything. And it means togetherness, universality, the world as a whole. Now, the other ones are actually Taoist, and they are connected to yin yang, which is the way. So in the beginning of Chinese, so the origin of the world according to Chinese is there's movement like that, and this movement creates qi, yin qi and yang qi, and they create the 5 elements, which then go into relationships of destruction or creation, depending on which way round you go on the actual image and the way you go between them in a pentacle. It's a very complex thing to do with yin yang. I've written a book on it. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Yin Yang, so please get yourself a copy, but it's not important here. The point is that the Indian one is about how the world is created. The Chinese one is about how the world is created, or the makeup of the physical world, but they are not the same thing. They are separate things. So let's push the Taoist one to the side and let's focus on the Indian one. And as I say, we've got Gorin To, which is a physical representation of the concept of Gorin, and that means universality inside of the world and everything. Now, inside of Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings, then it shows you the earth scroll, the wind scroll, the water scroll, and there are little references to what each means. This is the foundation of things. This is a reference to other people because this word means X, Y, and Z. So within Musashi's own writing, he shows you that he's using those connections between them to talk about the different schools, to talk about the foundations, to talk about the mental aspects, like the scroll of air, if you like. They talk about the non-physical things, and he's very cleverly puts this together. But we have to look at it as a whole as well. So that's how Musashi wrote it, with an interconnecting part. But when we look at it as a whole and Gorin in context to Japanese history and society, we see that it means all things encapsulated within the world. So here we go for translation. So we hear Book of Five Rings. Okay, what do you mean by five rings? 5 gold rings. It's not a Christmas song, so it's not those 5 rings. Is it the 5 Olympic rings? No, it's not that. So what do we mean? Is it Sauron and he's got proper bling on instead of his 1 ring, he's gone for 5? What does it mean, 5 rings? Well, it actually means spheres. And I don't mean a ball sphere. So it's not like the 5 balls. It's not that. It means there's 5 spheres of existence. Earth, water, fire, wind, ether, air. Yep, those are the things that he absolutely is talking about. So when you translate the Book of Five Rings, it's more like the writing of all natural elements. So Gorin no Sho. So no, you can forget no. It just is a connecting grammatical point. Gorin Sho, Gorin no Sho. So basically Sho means writing. And in this case, a book of, the writing of, the scrolls of, it depends the format it's in. It's the scroll of, it's the densho of. It doesn't matter. It basically means writing, record of, writing of, volume of, whatever you want to do. However you want to perceive that. It's just a book. So the translation then becomes I'm just going to use the word book because it's not a book, but in English it's a book. Yeah. The Book of 5 Fundamental Elements. That's a bit like the Book of 5 Fundamental Elements. But not everything should be literal. So if you, for example, translate jujutsu to jujutsu, it's soft skills, the way of manipulation, the way of subtlety. So if I said to you, what do you practice in your martial arts? Oh, the way of subtlety. What? The supple ways, the way of to be supple. Flexibility. You'd be like, what? Are you doing yoga? What do you mean? No, we're doing grappling, throwing, striking, jujutsu, yeah? So you'd never translate things directly as they are. That's just not how it works. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So you wouldn't say the writing of 5 fundamental principles. It's got this Gorin is a term in itself. So it actually becomes the writing or book of universality, the writing of all things. Things that are universal to everything, a universal understanding inside of my writing. Yep, so you see where we're going. It isn't 5 rings, it's a book of everything. And of course, he's talking about swordsmanship, we know that. So it'd be brackets, the book of everything inside of swordsmanship. The universal writing for all swordsmanship. Then you take those brackets away because you're saying, we know it's swordsmanship, and he'd say the universal writing of the warrior, the universal writings for combat. That's the intent going through. So if we look, we've got Miyamoto Musashi, a warrior who created the school Ni To Ichiryu, the greatest sword school for warriors, the greatest school for warriors, the school of warrior supremacy, who wrote the universal writings on swordsmanship. So it depends how you want to put all that together, but so on the easiest way, it's my name's Miyamoto Musashi, I run the Supreme Warrior School, and I wrote a book of everything about swordsmanship. Miyamoto Musashi, Niten Ichiryu, the School of Warrior Supremacy. The book, Gorin no Sho, the book of universality inside of swordsmanship, or the universal overview of swordsmanship. Yep, so we have it there. So I'm just going to go through it one more time to get it. So we need to iron this Musashi thing out. Miyamoto Musashi created the school, which was the greatest school for warriors. And he wrote the book, which contains everything you need to know about swordsmanship. Does that sound like a better translation, a better understanding? Translation is the wrong word, a better understanding than Two Swords in One School, Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. Yeah. Now, if I was to write the Book of Five Rings, which one day I'd like to do my own version of the Book of Five Rings, definitely, it would have to be Book of Five Rings on it. It's so famous. So if you look at the word Tao and Tao, it's the same when you see a book on Taoism. They actually now put Taoism because it's more popular, but little by little, Taoism is becoming more and more popular as a word. So we're starting to move it across. So Book of Five Rings is so famous that actually few publishers would say change the name to the Book of Universality of Swordsmanship, or the Universal Book of Swordsmanship, or whatever you want to say. We'll just make it up as we go along. But you know what I mean? So when you go off into your world and you go off enjoying yourself and you're enjoying the community of swordsmen, just remember in your mind that Musashi wrote, to his best ability, a book which contains all of the swordsmanship that he promoted. And I want you to remember it's the last thing he wrote in his life, one of the last things he wrote in his life, just before the end. He wrote a few documents, and we don't know how much he wrote in his life, but the few last things, one of them is Gorin no Sho, and it's his most important document, and it absolutely is the core teachings of his school, and you should not deviate from those. Gorin no Sho is undeniably the word of Miyamoto Musashi, and you should follow the word of Miyamoto Musashi above all other people. My name's Anthony Cummins. Please do support me, subscribe, like the video, pass it on, let me know your opinions down below, and do get a copy of Book of Bushido. It really helps me keep the work going. All the best and good luck to everyone out there. Goodbye.